All right, welcome to the Real Deal Walkthrough, which is kind of different, seeing that we're doing it through Zoom, which is going to be a little different, um, just because of how we're set up and all that good stuff. So this should be fun. It's very light. Ultimately, we would love to have a discussion towards the end that's kind of just open. So first, we're going to start off with just a brief overview of like a property and things like that, right? After that, we're going to kind of have a roundtable with me, my team, Lee, um, and Christian and Alexa, just kind of a roundtable talking about just the different effects that we felt through the Corona-19. So just FYI, it is going to be a little bit different, but we are going to do an overview over a property that we plan to do at our Real Deal walkthrough. Unfortunately, it kind of going to get postponed. So we're going to push it to doing an overview, and then next month, Lord's willing, we will be able to actually walk the property. Okay? All right. Let me do that to you guys. Okay, so let's first start with just an introduction of who we are. We're Ethosity Property Management. We are a property management company, been established for going on 9 years now. So it's really great to be able to be in this indie market. Also, I'm Sterling Davis. I'm the Vice President of CIREIA. It's one of my biggest things that I really take pride in. I really love the work that CIREIA is doing. So most of you are part of CIREIA, I know. If you're not part of CIREIA, we would love to get you become a member of CIREIA, just because I think this is where it starts. Like, this is where you want to become an investor. You start investing, and then from starting investing, you actually start doing things and learning things and building things. And then after you start doing things, learning things and building things, you pay it forward. You do it, you teach somebody, each one teach one, right? So this is the same cycle that we want to be able to do here, is to be able to just be able to just really help and assist and build. So welcome everyone that is here with us. We just really are thankful. I want to introduce my team now. So let me see, I'll mute you guys. Let's see, unmute you guys. Mike, can you?
All right, cool. Hey guys. So I'm Christian. With my team, I work as an acquisition manager. Really what I do is I just help a lot of investors begin finding properties that really just fit towards their criteria. We've all grown up in Indianapolis. I know the city really well. I've lived here for the past 10 years on all different parts of the town. So I know a lot of the different neighborhoods, as well as just a lot of the different sides of town are like, and what the demographics you would be able to expect to see when you're in each of these areas. So that's kind of what I do.
I'm Alexa. I'm the property manager with Ethosity. I've been with Ethosity for about a year now. So I also work with the rehabs, which is one we're talking about today, 1701 Woodlawn. That's the most recent rehab that we completed. We look forward to showing you the works that we just did in this home, and letting you know about the goals and the approach we made, especially with how we switch up plans due to Corona right now.
And hi, my name is Lee Philibom, and I am part of the acquisition team. I help my investors find properties and help them buy properties. I also have my own company, Sovereign Property Investments. I'm a syndication company where I pool from other investors, private equity, and then we buy properties. So I do manage my own properties and whatnot, and help grow my company. If you want to learn more, feel free to learn more about us and what SPI is about. Feel free to visit sovereignspi.com. You can learn more about our syndication company if you're interested. Yeah, so that's what I do.
Great, excellent. Let me see if I can share some of the files I have pulled up for Woodlawn. Let me see if I can. Okay, here's one. So, all right, can everybody see my screen?
Yep.
All right, perfect. So 1701 Woodlawn. I kind of came across this property, just a brief overview. I came across this property. It's been on the market for some time. It was one of these properties that had a lot of upside, which, you know, because if you understand, if you Google 1701 Woodlawn, what will come up is that it sits on State Street in Woodlawn, which is pretty much Fountain Square. Like it's that heart of where the development and things are kind of happening inside of it. Let me see. Can you still see my screen?
Yeah.
Oh, perfect. So now I can just kind of play. Woodlawn. I promise, guys, I won't chat too long on this part. So 1701 Woodlawn, this is where it sits. You see the prospect, you see the north side here. It's really in the heart of where Fountain Square's development and things is happening at this very moment. Hold on, let me see. Somehow I'm getting an echo right now. Can you hear me? I feel like I'm getting an echo.
Yeah, I'm here.
Yeah, I'm still here.
You do.
Yeah, there's quite an echo.
Okay, give me a second. I'm just gonna mute everybody just to see if that helps. Does that not help? No, it doesn't. What happens when I mute myself? Let me see. I don't know why that started. Okay, we're just gonna push through. So 1701 Woodlawn, as you can see, it sits in this area inside of State Street right here. Let's see, show small. Give me a second, I'm trying to figure out why it's doing that, but okay. So this is the house where it sits. This house is sitting on the market, going on 90 days. It was pretty overpriced, the original price. Let's see if I can pull that up. As you can see, so the list price, it shows 138.5, but honestly, this list price was probably closer. When I first saw it, it was closer to the 150 mark. So it drastically started dropping down to the 138.5. But even at the 138.5, because the amount of rehab that was needed was pretty significant. So it still made it for a deal that needed some more room, depending on what the type of rehab that we were going to put into it. So we end up our first offer was for 105, which seems very low, I realize. So what we ended up doing was they were like, no, that's too low. So after we put the 105 offer in, they countered with an offer of 130. Still not as low as we wanted. The owner was wanting to be about 115. Realistically, 115 buying a property in Fountain Square, I know everybody probably knows the market. That's just insane. Like, you know what I mean? Like, that's just probably was not realistic on our part to think that we were going to be able to. What this property is, though, is it's actually a duplex. So the door right here is an entryway, and then it's a door right here that goes to an upstairs unit that is the length of the house. So it's a pretty good sized unit. We knew that it was a duplex, and we were going to try to keep it in the same status that it was in. You know, as you can see, as our comps, the rental comps is somewhere around the rental comps ARV. If you just totally redone this house, is $251,000, which is pretty significant. But that's why it's important that we were going to be able to get it to close to that 115 mark. Did we get it to the 115 mark? No, we actually were able to buy the house for all in at 123. Okay. So that was pretty cool, but you know, it took some negotiation. Honestly, this negotiation took about 2 weeks. Sometimes you just have to wait it out. You don't want to rush into these things. You want to make sure you hit your number. And he, you know, at the end of the day, he thought 8,000 was enough from his number, that it made it worth it still. Okay. So then we started looking at, okay, part of that analysis that we started doing was, what is the use of this building? At the time we were thinking, you know, this is a good rental, just at $1,100, $1,200 to $1,300 in rent. That's a pretty good rental analysis. Like that's $2,600 from a duplex, right? So that's why we were really intrigued if we can get this house at 115, which is crazy. So Alexa's will talk about a little bit about the rehab that we went into it and things. But for us, those are just the soft numbers. When we walk the property, we will give you our actual, what we normally do is our rehab quote and our actual analysis and show the cash on cash and things like that. We're not going to go through that today because, of course, like we talked about on the front end of this is, hey, we want to be able to show you this, but also we want to talk about the effects of the coronavirus and our real estate market in Indiana. Alexa?
Definitely. The rehab was very different with this just because of the setup of the property. We had so many different options and how we could direct this project. Initially, we expected this to be a long-term rental. Then looking at the neighborhood, we pulled the Airbnb and saw that this would actually bring us better cash flow as an Airbnb / short-term rental. So we then decided to do a different type of rehab, you know, a little bit higher end quality in there than we would a typical short or long-term rental. So, you know, we threw in like butcher block countertops and moved some things around inside the home and actually had full permits with what was just supposed to be a cosmetic turn. So all together, and I think the rehab went about 61 days. It was pretty smooth selling. We didn't have any hiccups on this one. So some of the issues that we did encounter now that it's finished is posting this as an Airbnb right now. As we know that all the travel bans, Airbnb has decided they're going to refund everyone for the next 45 days for any visit that they had booked, as long as it was booked. I think it was like after March 13th. So the short-term rental market has taken a hit right now. So we're really battling the idea of bringing on a short-term rental at this time. Do we make it a long-term rental for a few months and then revisit this idea when traveling is back a thing again and travel bans are lifted? So these are some of the issues that we faced recently now that the rehab is over. So for right now, we're going to just wait it out and see where things go in the next couple of weeks. Go ahead and set the property and possibly rent it as a furnished long-term rental.
Yeah, absolutely. I just started the little chat thing over to the side. How many people, if you have short-term rentals or long-term rentals, or you're an investor, in the chat box, put what type of rentals, or if you're doing rentals or you're doing flips or whatever you're doing, kind of put that in the chat so we can kind of see what type of demographic of people that we're working with here. Nate, what's up, man? Nate, long-term rentals, great. Rebecca and Grant, they do both. They have a wonderful subgroup as well. The Burr subgroup that is going to be great. I'll have them tell us when that is as well. Start with wholesaling. Cool. Commercial, long-term. Yep. Long-term. Cool. Long-term rentals, mostly a few flips. Okay, cool. Like that's great. So that gives us an idea of what I'm a buy and hold guy. That is what I do. Mostly my team are a lot of buy and holds. We play the long-term game. It is a different game, but it is something that we enjoy and we enjoy talking about. That's kind of how what Real Deal kind of came about, is because we have these conversations in our office all the time. So we were like, man, I think this could be very valuable for people. Let me see here. Hold on. Okay. All right. Perfect. So what we're going to do, that is just a brief overview of our 1701 Woodlawn. Do anybody have any questions when it comes to Woodlawn itself right now? I know we didn't go all the way in detail like we normally do, which we will next month, because we're going to be out the house, guys, next month.
We definitely plan to have everyone there next month, but walking through the home.
You can, if you don't feel comfortable, you can put it in the chat, and we'll keep looking. So now what we're going to do is we're just going to have a roundtable and just discuss the real estate market right now in Indianapolis, and some of the things that we're dealing with the corona virus and things like that. So I'm going to be moderating it. Of course, Alexa, she's a property manager. Lee, he's our numbers guy. We call him Rain Man. Christian, he's our acquisition guy. He kind of runs our sales team. Very knowledgeable of the neighborhoods as well. I'm going to open it up and open it up just a discussion. Lee, how has this corona shutdown affected just your real estate sales and things like that?
Yeah, so I mean, Sovereign Property Investments is doing a project bought at the same time. So they're both in West Indianapolis. One is Hyatt, the other one is off of Richland. I closed on the Hyatt property March 19th. And typically what I like to do. You okay there, Sterling?
Man, sorry.
Corona.
So we self-quarantine.
So typically what I like to do is I don't like to wire the funds until I do my final walkthrough in the morning, try to do evening closes. Well, with this whole coronavirus thing, it just made me realize that you have to adjust what you typically do. So I thought, okay, I'm going to walk the property. I was good to walk it, and then everything was what it was. Before I purchased it, I tried to wire the funds. Well, come to find out, my branches were closed and couldn't go into the phone. They said, well, you can't wire more than $50,000 over the phone, to prevent fraud and embezzlement type of thing. So you have to do it type of thing. But because the branch, I was getting a little bit of a panic. This was about 4 hours before close. So luckily I was able to contact my branch manager of Castleton. She opened up the store for me, or the lobby, and not long enough to transfer over. So what it made me realize is we have to make sure that we are anticipating what issues we have last second. You need to kind of plan things out and give more time for actions, because we honestly don't know what new issues will come up, what new things will change. I mean, this is kind of a day-to-day basis. Every day things seem to be changing, and you just make sure you allow time for your transaction. Typically took, not very long. Now you need to give it more time. Sure. Luckily, I was able to close the property, but I cut it darn close. I probably should have checked with my bank the day before. It occurred to me that I wouldn't have been able to wire the funds. Absolutely. So that's something that surprised me.
No, that's a good point. I mean, we're definitely seeing it. A lot of our investors are doing refis right now, and with doing refis, they are just not as easy as I mean, are refis ever easy? No, but they're not as easy to be able to handle on the management side. How do I? I'll mute you real quick, Lee. So on the appraisal side, what is happening is people are scared, of course, of people coming into their house, and it's like, well, of course, it's a reason why people want to refi. Rates are real low right now, so of course, why wouldn't you want to refi right now? But the problem is, what does the appraisals do when you can't get into the house? So actually, yesterday they kind of loosened the reins, and they are allowing different techniques when it comes to even appraising, from doing the outside and being able to do a video tour of the inside. So you just have to be able to adapt and ask the question so that, you don't kill your appraisal, or you don't kill different opportunities just because this market has changed. Alexa, how has this affected you with the long-term and short-term tenants so far? Hello? Also, if you have any questions or anything in the chat, go ahead and put any questions that you may have.
As far as the long-term and short-term rentals, specifically with appraisals or with Corona, what is?
Just the effects of so far with, just the tenants, long-term, short-term, from payments to next month.
Yeah, so we've had, right now, I've kept an Excel spreadsheet. I think we're at 23 tenants right now, 23 tenants have informed us that they will not be able to make rent payments for the month of April. In the grand scheme, that is a small percentage. However, I do expect that to increase as the weeks go on, especially as we get closer to May. I know that we were talking about earlier, I think May is our main concern, considering this may go out longer than we expect it to. So just right now, I'm trying to create a list of resources for all of our tenants, all the aid programs, and even places that are hiring immediately right now, just to try and fill that void that I know a lot of them are feeling right now. And this, it's the fear of not being able to pay rent, just as fearful as owners are of not being able to collect and make the mortgage payment. The tenants are feeling the same fear right now.
Absolutely, absolutely. How many people if you have fear about people paying rent in May, put yes or no in the chat right now. Yes, unsure. Yes, 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 yes. Okay, cool. Well, no, we're definitely the same boat. We manage over 500 rentals, and what we're trying to do is come up with a game plan as we speak to do it. I think part of that is just being able to communicate early. Just like anything, I think it's important to be able to make sure your tenants understand that what the process is of this. Like what are they need to know when it comes to be April 1st, right? The second thing is, I think people want to know that you care. Mm-hmm. That sounds crazy, but people just want to know that you care. I know, like, we have a lot of great tenants that pay early, and they're not concerned about April's rent. There are even, what month is this? Sorry. They're concerned about the next month's rent. So it's very important that we just make sure that we tell them that we care. And we're not just checking on them for rent as much as we're checking on them to make sure they're okay. And if they need anything, do they need some of our resources and things like that? Okay. Sorry, I cut you off. Christian, how has this affected working with day in and day out with your investors?
Yeah, no, this has made a few changes. One change for one thing for sure is two of the properties There's currently tenants living inside. They're currently tenanted properties that investors are wanting to take over. And the tenants on the inside are usually pretty hesitant about, letting other people coming through for one of the deals. She was saying, we've had an inspector come through for the main property. We had another guy come through for the sewer scope. And we had a third guy come through to drain the crawl space. And the tenants who are currently living in that property were just talking about how many people, we have coming through. And it's just a concern on a lot of people's minds, with really wanting to social distance themselves. With our current laws, real estate is still considered, or with the current laws and all the businesses shutting down, real estate is still considered an essential business.
In any sector within it. So even moving companies are still going, appraisals are still going. So closings are still happening.
And so we're able to get our job done, but a lot of people are very hesitant about people going to their house. So that's one thing that we're having to work through right now. We're working through it. We have not had it hold us up yet. That's just one struggle we've encountered so far. Another thing we've had to encounter is just transitioning to everything online. For example, a lot of our closings, the title company, they are doing everything online. When I was talking to Nations Last, they said that we are doing all closings, and they're preparing to be able to have their employees working from home as well. So that's another transition. A few of the investors, they are a little hesitant, especially with being able to find tenants, especially with this job market and so many people losing employment. But people will always need housing, so people are definitely still investing and still pushing forward with their with finding investment properties.
We have seen an increase in leads this past week. I do think that there is a motive for those who don't have a permanent residency to do so now, not knowing over the next 8 weeks where things will go. So we haven't seen a decrease in leads as far as the rental market at this point yet, but I do foresee that to change in the next couple of weeks.
That's good. That's good knowledge. Lee, sorry. When it comes to like this market, have everyone that's listening, have anyone stopped buying because of the corona? Have anybody started buying because of the corona? If so, we would love to hear from you.
Yeah. So, I mean, for me, it put it into question by the and honestly, I was kind of back and forth because part of my concerns was, if I do buy, can I even rehab them? Luckily, Holcomb, the governor, decided that real estate agents and contractors and whatnot can still continue to work. So that created a lot of that pressure and fear, because I don't want to buy 2 properties that I need to rehab, and now I can't rehab for the next few months. Now it pushes off my return later, and so, I had to talk to my investors. I had to let them know that they may take up to 6 months instead of our projected 3 months to get it rehabbed and tenants in there. But thankfully, thus far, rehab on the first duplex is going smoothly, and everything's and so I am very glad now that I decided that yes, we should continue to buy it, because they were still good deals. It didn't stop being a good deal just because of the coronavirus. And it just made it more complicated. You had more time for things to get completed.
Excellent. Yeah. How are some of you guys, I would love to see in the chat, handling the corona right now when it comes to buying and or not buying? Yes or no, are you still buying properties right now? I'd love to just to hear everybody's opinion on it. Yes, still looking to buy, waiting a bit. Yes, but I would build in a bigger discount. Yes, absolutely. That actually, Rebecca brings a good point. Lee, what are some of how should a buyer or an investor approach buying in this market when it comes down to discounts, leverage, and things like that?
Well, I can't make predictions on, whether this is going to turn into a recession, but because then, real estate, it's been clear that in the stock market, it's just been falling. The stock market's already declined at 25%, close to 30%. Real estate tends to lag behind. So I will be very curious in a month from now to see if real estate is going to reflect these lower prices. So it may be a good time right now to build up your war chest and start saving up cash to prepare for the dip that might come up 3 months from now, where you can buy properties that are a little bit cheaper but still good properties. So you might be in a situation where you have the opportunity to find some good deals in the next months.
Excellent. So just a couple of people said waiting until the end of the year. Yes, but I would build. Yeah.
The car.
You know what?
Yeah.
No, because at the time that I was getting ready to do all of that, this happened.
Let me see something there. All right. All right. So with all that's going on, I think it's just smart to be able to plan for it. I think Rebecca makes for a good point of building in a bigger cushion. You know, I think when you start talking about leverage and, you know, should you leverage still versus, you know, I'm doing a game right now where I'm actually selling off several of my properties to get more liquidity, to be able to figure out what I'm going to be able to do in the next 6 months to a year, just because just where the market has shifted a little bit for me. But that's my approach. You know what I mean? That is not something I'm pushing on my clients necessarily. We're moving on. Alexa, how has Ethosity's way of leasing been a positive in this time of just what everything's going on? Oh, sorry, my Alexa, my house went off because I said your name. Hello. I think Alexa's computer might have froze there.
Well, hey, could I add one more thing about leverage, Sterling?
Yes, sir, you can.
Okay. Yeah, in that regard, the leverage. So our properties don't use any leverage at all. We just straight out with cash. And part of the reason why I did that with my company, Sovereign Property Investments, is that I wanted to create a investment for my investors where it could be recession resistant. So in our rents could drop in half, and we would still not lose money on properties. And it's very unlikely that rents are going to drop in half in the next few months. That should. So if I were in a position, I would try not to leverage to the hill, to the maximum, like in the BRRRR. I would try to make sure your balance sheet is strong and keep your cash flows as high as possible. So I would try to also stockpile some money to keep you spamming. If there is a 6 months or 3 months, it's going to be kind of short on revenues. I think it's important to make not over and to not maximize your leverage. I would try to leave. That gives you a natural buffer to handle if rents were to go down or just rents not getting paid.
Absolutely. We have a question. I know I asked Alexa a question. Somebody asked, Alexa, would you mind sharing the list of resources / processes you put together for tenants? Is there a specific, like, I guess the question would be is like, what specific would that be in regards to, like the leasing, the move-in, just the corona, how we're telling them to move forward? Just let us know, and we can we're always open to share our resources and things. This is not we want everybody to be able to help and give and things like that. Oh, Alexa's back. So Alexa, I asked you a question regarding like, how has the process that you have set up when it comes to leasing and things been very positive just in this climate with, you know, travel and distancing of people?
So yeah, I think we've really been pushing marketing during this time. We took videos of our homes right now, so you can physically go on to Facebook Marketplace or I haven't figured out how to put it on Zillow quite yet, but sharing video footage with people who aren't able to leave the home so they can get a better idea outside of, you know, what 10 to 20 pictures can provide you. I hope that, you know, that will be a success during this time where people aren't able to leave the home. Another one is Facebook Marketplace. I think, you know, during this time, everyone's scrolling and on Facebook and talking about things through social media. So really pushing during that time for the properties that are on the market.
Cool. And also, I mean, the other thing is we utilize something called Rently. So Rently is a self-guided tour system, so that I'm not putting my leasing agent at harm by sending them to go view a property with someone. And so it allows people to go view that property, especially in this climate, without having to schedule necessarily a walkthrough with a person. So I think that is a great advantage of being able to, and I think between that and video tours, those are going to be a huge resource for leasing out properties during times like this. So, you know, I recommend anybody that is trying to lease out properties themselves to kind of utilize those tools. So they asked what strategies people are using if tenants cannot pay. I can answer that question. You know, so I've kind of posted this in an owners group and things like that, the Indianapolis Out of State group. It is a very fluid situation right now with tenants paying and not paying, right? What we know is the courts are closed until April 15th. What we know is that is a huge portion of the people in Marion County and across the country are laid off from their jobs. What we know is this is a very bad time for the American people when it comes down to income and paying of things, right? So what our approach is right now is we are saying rent is still due on the 1st. We understand that people have lost their jobs, and we are waiving all of April's late fees. So if, you know, we're not necessarily promoting it to our tenants, but if they call, they say they have an issue, we will waive all their late fees, and we're just trying to be a resource for that. Now, if April 15th comes and they still can't pay their rent, what happens? Honestly, we just don't know. It's so much that has to happen between now and April 15th. It just is not right for us to speculate because, you know, honestly, we might have a stimulus package by then. We might still be on lockdown by April 15th, and the courts might not open till May 1st, right? So it's just too early to be able to determine what's going to happen. What I will say is turn cost is the #1 ROI breaker when it comes down to rental properties. So our ultimate goal is not to turn a property in this situation. So we're going to do everything in our what it takes for us not to get a vacant house. And some of that is we're going to try not to piss off the tenants so that they don't walk out of here. So we are going to keep that in mind as well. Hopefully that answers the question. If not, just let me know. All right, moving along. Christian and Lee, a couple more questions. I don't want to have you guys here too long. We close down in the next like 13 minutes. Christian and Lee, what's up? How have you guys seen the low interest rates and things? We know 2 weeks ago, saw this is kind of happening, and the interest rates kind of went low on the federal side. But how have you guys see that affects our market right now?
Yeah, actually, I've had a number of friends that are actually trying to refi their houses right now. So my interest rate for my personal residence is 3.8%. I actually got a quote where I could get it down to 2.8, so a whole percent less, which is incredible. 3.8 is already historically way below the norm, and then just at 2.8%, it's almost free money at that point. It's kind of absurd. I don't even know what to think of it. However, I did hear on March 19th when I was closing that that interest rates might be going back up. I don't know.
I'm sure they will.
I mean, at this point, it almost seems like it can only go one direction, but it kind of seems weird for the Fed to lower it and then bring it back up. It's kind of a whiplash effect. Yeah. So I've heard that though.
Do you think we're going to get to the negative?
I think we might get to 0, but you know, the Fed has talked about how they don't believe in a negative interest rate. but I know Japan did this, and Japan's been in negative interest rates for a while. So we're definitely going to zero probably, but I don't know if we're going to go negative, because imagine what that means. That means it costs you money to have money with the bank at that point.
Yeah, that's crazy. It's just insane time that we're living in. Did we lose Christian?
No, my
Yeah.
phone died. I had a Steel Lexus phone right here still.
What's up, man? How do you think, just with everything in the climate right now?
This is the ideal time to apply for a loan. This is the ideal time to, really put yourself out in the market, just because these are historically low interest rates. There's been a time, just a few years ago, back in 2015, 2014, where interest rates wasn't unheard of to have an interest rate of 8% or having an interest rate of 10%. So having interest rates as low as 2% and the Fed's rates being next to zero, this is the ideal time where if you did get a loan, you would never have to refinance your property, because you're never going to find a better deal than what we have right now in this current market. So even if you're unsure or you're still on the fence, I say just go ahead, go apply, because the worst case scenario, you don't get a house right now, but you're at least locked in for, I think it's a few months, almost 6 months. I could be wrong on that, where you're at those low interest rates.
Sweet. Yeah, I think it's, with anything, I think you have to be able to have an exit. You have to be able to have a strategy that works for you, and understanding what that exit strategy is for you to make the most sense, right? It has, and you got to, take advantage of the situation. But I think you still need to make sure that you have room, and making sure that you run the analysis on the properties if you're doing a rental and things like that, right? No. So anybody have any questions for us? You guys can unmute now if you have a question. We can definitely
So I was
unmute
thinking it might take a few months to see the drop in interest rate. So you're saying now would be the right time to act instead of waiting a few more weeks or months?
Now is definitely the right time to at least apply for your loan. Even if you don't see an offer or a deal right now, just applying for the loan is locking you into that interest rate. So it's just guaranteeing that when you are ready for your trigger and write that purchase agreement, you will be able to have this current interest rate, as opposed to waiting 3-4 months when the interest rates do rise again.
Yeah, I absolutely agree with Christian on that. I think typically it locks in to 120 days. So if you could lock it in now, even if you don't use it, at least you locked in a low.
Thank you.
No problem.
And I think it's interesting to play that game, right? Because when my parents were growing up, I mean, you're talking about 18% interest rate compared to now. We're debating if we should wait a 0.5% or not, or 1%, for it to drop another and be 1.8, right? Like, I mean, it is a time to be alive, is what these old people call it. Anybody else have any questions? Anybody? Well, if you don't have any question, Dave have a beautiful person watching this with him, man. Thanks. What are your thoughts on getting a HELOC? Lee, what are your thoughts on getting a HELOC?
I mean, I don't like to bet my house on real estate, to be honest.
You know my theory.
Yeah. I set my money aside that's separate of it. So that way, if anything ever fails, you don't lose your personal residence as a result because you're using a HELOC. I don't know. I find it to be an expensive way I find it to just be more risk than one should take to bet your own house. Now, if you want to refinance your money out, I could understand that with your personal residence, and you get maybe you have a lot of built up in your house and it's stuck in a trap. Maybe refinancing at a lower interest rate makes way more sense. And this point, that might, if you're at a 3.8% and you finance and you have, $50,000 more equity because it appreciated, or you had put a large down payment on it originally, and now you can get a 1% interest rate lower. that's a difference.
Yeah, I mean, I think Lee understands my philosophy. But, you know, I have a lot of friends and investors that work with us right now that do HELOCs, like Paul Beats. I don't know if you guys know him from, he's doing a HELOC, and he has a pretty unique strategy of how he pays back the HELOC so it kind of protects itself. For me, I'm a risk taker, but HELOC my dad always told me, Sterling, at the end of the day, never leverage your house. And I just kind of live by that my whole life. Like, he's like, you can do a lot of things, you can leverage a lot of things, but if your business fails, you need to make sure you have a place that your family can live. So that is something I just kind of live by. But, you know, I know a lot of great people that are doing it on an awesome level. And, you know, like if you look up Paul Beats on Facebook, he's definitely somebody that I recommend talking to about it. All right. Anybody else before we shut this down? It's been wonderful hanging out with everyone. All right. Before we go, no, thank you all. Before we go, I would love to get an email from all of you. I'm going to put my email address inside the chat right now. If you can email me your information, and if you're not a member of CIREIA, you're really missing out. I think CIREIA is one of the best places. Sweet, thank you. Thanks, Rachel and Nathaniel. Thank you guys for joining us. Thank you, Lachelle. Thank you, Andrew. Thanks, guys. And if you, like I said, send me an email. Send me an email, so I will make sure to respond to you guys. And if you're not, like I said, I'll send you a calendar to CIREIA as well. We would love, if you're a CIREIA member, it's very imperative so you can get your PHP credits, so we can keep this thing rolling. All right. All right, everyone. Well, y'all have a great night. Don't get sick out here. Drink lots of water. All right, guys. Really appreciate y'all hanging out with us tonight.
Awesome. See you guys later.
Bye, everybody.